Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Ashton from Lo-Fi Book Club. It's the end of the year. It's the end of the reading year for me. Now listen, I attempted a Goodreads challenge at the beginning of last year. At the beginning of this year. Everyone was going on about it. They were like, what's your Goodreads number for this year? How many books are you gonna read in a month? Well, I put 24, thinking that seemed very reasonable. I thought I could do it. I thought, nah problem. I will have no problem doing 2 books a month. I was so wrong. So wrong. I managed 17, which I still think is a pretty good number. But being more and more chronically online this year, I have realized I'm not doing as well as a lot of other people, and that's okay. So this is my end of year wrap up. I'm literally taking my top 5 that I've enjoyed the most this year and telling you about them. I won't put any spoilers. I'll do a quick synopsis of what the book is about and kind of what I liked, didn't like about it. Whilst I do feel like the Goodreads challenge is kind of fun if you want to encourage yourself to read more. I do also feel like as the year went on, it was becoming a bit of a burden for me. I felt like I would just pick up a really random short story. I could finish it quickly and add it to the number of books I'd read, and some of the short stories were alright, but I kind of missed out on just actually getting stuck into a really good book that was on my list purely because I just wanted the number. So if you're like me and you also gave yourself a high book number on Goodreads, let's not do that in 2025. I'm going to use Goodreads to just track what I read, because I have the most horrendous memory. As far as I'm getting older, it's just getting worse, but I can't remember what I read this year, and thank God for Goodreads keeping track for me. Let's enjoy reading in 2025. And if you read fast, perfect, read fast. If you read slow, perfect, read slow. Don't let anyone discourage you, no matter how often or little you read. Okay, so number 5 for me was Small Gods by Terry Pratchett. This is my first Terry Pratchett book, and actually I've been putting him off for quite a while. I'd heard that he was really hard to read, and that made me feel like it just wouldn't be enjoyable. But here we are, I finally read one. Considering it wasn't actually my choice to read Small Gods, it still made it to my top 5. The only reason I read it, and I'm glad I did, was because I had a deal with my boyfriend that if I read a Terry Pratchett book, he would read A Court of Thorns and Roses. This actually spiraled into me reading other favorite books of his, which one of them also made it onto this list. So A Small Gods is actually part of the Discworld novels and is number 13. As far as I can see, there are 41 in the Discworld universe, and apparently you don't have to read them in order. Well, thank God, because I've started at number 13. So this is a story of a god called and his unlikely relationship with a prophet called Brother as he tries to manifest himself back into the world once more. So no one believes in anymore, and before he disappears entirely, he needs to recruit new followers. The only issue is he's come back to Earth as a tortoise. And due to the lack of belief in him as a god, he has no powers. Although he actually can singe eyebrows with teeny tiny lightning bolts. The novel also satirizes philosophy, political institutes, and religion in political life. It's a really funny story, and there are some really good characters. I feel like if you're a Monty Python fan, this would be right up your street, because I found myself visualizing characters from Life of Brian. If you've read A Small Gods, tell me if you also had that in your head, because I don't know, that's the kind of humor I was getting and the visualization I was getting. When Brother first meets he thinks he's a demonic voice in his head. Oh, hang on, did I even tell you that the tortoise speaks? Well, only to Brother, and it's in Brother's head as well, so literally no one else around him can hear him talk. As if recruiting believers wasn't hard enough, not only can he not talk, he's a tortoise. Tortoise. It's a great story of adventure, and there are tons of really funny moments. It looks at the importance of personal faith, but it also argues against people using their religious beliefs to impose fear and pain on others. I did find some parts hard to understand. There was sometimes a rhythm to the sentences, and some words just went right over my head. You'll also find at the bottom of the page there's lots of footnotes, which can be quite distracting, but you do need to read these because they'll add to your understanding of the people and the places and the events. I have also heard that the audiobook of Small Gods is really good to listen to. Apparently Andy Serkis reads the novel and Bill Nighy reads the footnotes, and that sounds like a really fun combination. I find the pace a little slow, so if that's a concern for you, perhaps the audiobook would be a good option instead. Number 4 is Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. Now, I've read a few of these books from the series that's called Dresden Files. I think for this one, I'm not going to focus on one particular book, but instead the series as a whole, or just the 4 I've read. So the Dresden Files is a series of contemporary mystery fantasy novels. It follows a private investigator and wizard, Harry Dresden. It's written as a first-person narrative as Harry recounts his paranormal investigations. Based in modern-day Chicago, it's a really cool mix of fantasy and detective fiction, and the humans aren't completely aware of all the goings-on in the underground fantasy realms, so it's interesting how Harry Dresden navigates this. He also has a spirit that inhabits a skull, which is like his very own like Wikipedia. Basically just gives him magical knowledge and advice. And he also works closely with the Chicago Police Special Investigations Department. Throughout the books, you'll be introduced to different vampire councils and fairy courts. If you're a fairy smut kind of person, you'll be disappointed. And organizations of human wizards. And each species in this series has its own political rules, which as you can imagine gets very sketchy. So I read the first in the series by Jim Butcher, which actually was his debut novel, Stormfront, followed by Full Moon, Grave Peril, and then Summer Night. At the beginning of every book, or at least the 4 I've read, he recounts like the characters again. And I understand it's reminding us like who everyone was. And I'm sure it is helpful. But once I know who Bob is, I don't need to know who Bob is again. But then maybe that's just me. Or when he describes like the basement or I don't know, some rugs on the floor. I already know about them and why they're there. But it's every time. So I think once you've heard it for like the 4th, 5th time, you're almost like, I don't need to know anymore. I know. This was the only flaw for me personally. I found that the pace was really fast and I just wanted to keep reading. I just wanted to know what happened. And I liked the mixture of fantasy and detective work. I'm a big fantasy lover, so I found this very different to what I usually read. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but it is a really great read. It has a fast pace. There's magic, mythical creatures, and there is a deeper storyline, which does make me eventually want to read all 17 in the series. In at number 3 is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I've only read the first in this series. I literally had to Google to see if it was a trilogy, but apparently it's meant to be like 5 books, and I have seen this book being recommended all over TikTok. There was fan art on Instagram, there was merch on Etsy, and I was like, I've got to read this bloody book. Like, this is doing my head in. I need to read this book. And I think it's because I read ACOTAR last year. My algorithm was probably like, hun, you're gonna love this. In Fourth Wing, we follow Cadet Violet Sorrengail as she enters Basgiath War College, and the only goal of this college is to make you bond to a dragon or die trying. Throughout the book, there's an increasing number of attacks on their borders and kingdom, and this means that there's political unrest in the world. Her mum is a commanding general in the military, so by default, Violet's got a target on her back, and she'll come across many enemies throughout. There's unlikely friendships, romance, self-discovery, cute dragons. As someone who likes dragons and even cries at episodes in House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, this did hurt my heart a little bit. I really did enjoy this book. I needed something light-hearted, but that was still in the fantasy realm. And I have yet to read about dragons that aren't House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones. I have heard conflicting things, but I thought the characters were done quite well. I enjoyed the world building and the trials that Violet goes through to become the person she is at the end. It did make me want to read the next one, which is Iron Flame, because I know that in January 2025, the 3rd one comes out. However, I haven't heard great things. I had touched on this briefly about how sometimes the 2nd or the 3rd installments of series don't do as well because they're a little bit rushed out. Usually it's because the first one went so viral so quick, and I'm worried that this will be the same, especially since it did achieve its viral success thanks to TikTok. And everyone just wants like the next thing, like now. And I did read somewhere that she announced the next book literally days after publishing the first one. But I have also heard that's quite normal. So I don't know. I'm not an author. I don't know. If you're looking for something that's like sexy, dark academia. It's got magic, dragons. I would recommend this book. Although I do feel like you avid romantasy lovers in my comments are going to recommend me some much better books to read than this. And I'm open to it. I'm open to recommendations. Please let us all know. Let us all know. My number 2 is the Souls Trilogy by Harley LaRue. Just a warning before I delve into this trilogy, and in case you want to read them, they are dark, paranormal, fantasy, romance novels with 18+ themes like BDSM, among other kinks. You might find it disturbing and triggering. So if this doesn't sit well with you, please stop the video here and I will see you next week. It's absolutely fine. But for you sassy lot that are still here, let's talk about Soul of a Witch. If I'm honest, the whole trilogy was a lot of fun. You've got Her Soul for Revenge, Her Soul to Take, and then the third installment is Soul of a Witch. Each book can be read as a standalone, and you don't have to read them in order either, but they are all interconnected, and that's really interesting actually. Soul of a Witch follows Everly, the daughter of a merciless cult preacher, as she discovers a house in the middle of the woods full of magic and a powerful demon. The demon tells Everly that her power can change the world and even kill the evil creature that she once worshipped. Harley LaRue creates some really cool, badass characters. I mean, tattooed, pierced demon dudes? Come on. What's not to love? But in all seriousness, although this is a pretty standard man-woman romance, it's also very LGBTQIA+ friendly. The demons themselves are pansexual. They don't have a preference with who they're sleeping with or who they're with, basically. There's a lot I enjoy about these books, especially Soul of a Witch, and it's not just the demons. The visuals are hauntingly beautiful and it's full of action. Throughout, like in each book, there's like a particular couple we follow. It's always like a girl and a demon, and they have different relationships throughout, but like I said, they're all interconnected. Very fun. The demons don't know each other, obviously, but the couples fight paranormal creatures and they set out to destroy this god that is basically going to destroy their town and even the world if it gets the chance to surface. I really like the pace of these books. It had me hooked. I just couldn't put it down. The steamy scenes are a bonus, and these books were actually my first ever experience of dark romance. I've since discovered a whole world of similar books, but as my first taste of this world, the Souls Trilogy was a very welcome start. Okay, so my number 1 is Mistborn, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. It's really hard for me not to say Brando Sando. I don't know if this is a common thing, but me and all my friends say Brando Sando. Brandon Sanderson, saying his actual full name is kind of weird. So this is the first in a trilogy, and Mistborn is set in like a dystopian-esque world. In the capital of the Final Empire, the Lord Ruler governs the families of noblemen and peasants known as Scar. And we follow the efforts of a secret group of allomancers, such as Mistings and Mistborns. And these can burn allomantic metals which they've ingested, and it gives them special abilities and power. In a world covered by ash in the daytime and mist at night, the peasants, who are called Scar, start to revolt the suppression that they have faced for thousands of years. And they do this with the help of a very rare, half-noble, half-Scar Mistborn. Now, I had reservations reading a Brando Sando book and getting myself into the Cosmere. The Cosmere, in case you didn't know, is like a galaxy where all his books take place. Think Stephen King's Multiverse and Terry Pratchett's Discworld, which I mentioned earlier, or the Malazan universe, because there's actually tons, but they're the ones off the top of my head. This is my most recent read, and it took me ages. Slow reader, remember? I really loved delving into this world. It made me so eager to consume the rest of the Cosmere. Sanderson does a really good job of fleshing out his characters. I really enjoy getting to know them. I only want to know more. The pace is also really nice. It's not too fast, not too slow. It does a good job of really building up to events as well. I think where the characters are concerned, their kind of arcs are really good. The character development throughout the book. I found it quite an interesting concept too, the fact that different metals can do different things. When it's ingested and burnt, like pewter makes you do different things to like ingesting iron and tin. It's just really interesting. It's just a different kind of power that I've ever read about before. I wouldn't say this is one for romantasy readers, because there is little to no romance.
And here we go. I hope you're hungry for nothing.
But if you like really strong world building, amazing complex characters, and love stories similar to June, I think you would love this one. Thank you so much for listening to my 2024 book wrap up. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my recommendations today. This is actually, I think, the first proper book review I've done this year. Since I started this channel. Sometimes they're not that interesting to listen to though, like someone else talking about the recommendations. I don't know, did you like it? I can do it again. But hopefully some of these books interested you and you will read them yourselves. I would also love you to recommend me some stuff in the comments too. I'm always adding stuff to my to read. My TBR is getting longer and longer and longer, and considering I'm a slow reader, I have to be very particular about which ones I pick. As you can see, I read quite a wide range of books. I don't really sit in one genre, although I did very much used to sit in the horror with Stephen King. I've definitely broadened my horizons and I'm kind of dipping into all the genres. So that is actually it for this year. I'm going to take a bit of time off now for Christmas and New Year. This year has gone so quickly. It's crazy. I can't believe we're already at the end. But I am looking forward to 2025 and starting a whole new list of books. I'm really looking forward to connecting more and discussing more in the comments about our love for books or anything bookish. So have a lovely break, vacation, holiday. I just realized I'm not dressed very festive considering this is my last video for the 2024, but never mind. I'm wearing goosebumps, and I will see you next year. Bye!